Hey, hello and welcome again everyone. Microbehunter here, and I hope that everything works perfectly and that you're able to hear me. Quickly going to check it whether everything works. Yes, it seems to work. Welcome back again for another live stream. And today I'd like to explain to you different ways of connecting a camera, mobile phones or cameras, microscope cameras, digital SLR cameras, and so on, different options to a microscope. And I'm going to also give you some slightly theoretical background material so that it's going to be easier for you also to kind of, get a better overview of the different options. I prepared quite a bit today, and I would like to demonstrate a few things, and I hope that it works. It's always this demonstration effect because the whole afternoon I've already been setting up everything, and because I've got so many cameras connected over USB, it kind of overloaded my USB port a little bit, but I think we'll be fine. So I just want to give you a short overview of what we're going to cover today before I actually go into the practical aspects, and we'll actually show you some of the things that I have here. So first of all, when you want to connect a camera to a microscope to take pictures or to make videos, or basically be able to view the image on a monitor. Sometimes also very often forgotten. Sometimes you don't want to take pictures, you just want to view the image because it's more comfortable to see it on screen maybe, or maybe several people are observing. There are different ways on how you can do that, and how you can connect. Let me refocus this a little bit. And there are three ways that I would like to briefly explain. Then I would like to talk a little bit about the purpose of the intermediate optics, the adapter optics, some factors that you should consider when making a choice for a microscope camera. And then also I would like to talk about different demonstrations that I have here. I would like to show you different ways of connecting it. Yeah, so that's basically what I would like to do. If you have any questions or any comments, please do write something into the chat. Okay, and if there's too much information, of course, this video will be available later on online as well. So first of all, if you want to connect a camera, mobile phone or camera, whatever, to a microscope, there are three different approaches or three different ways that I'm going to talk about. The first one is called direct projection, and this basically means that you have an objective of the microscope and you've got a camera. You see that over here there is a camera, the camera sensor in here, and the objective directly will project the image in onto the sensor, and then it goes over USB to the computer. That's the first case, okay, called direct projection. The second case is called afocal photography. And in afocal photography, you're using an eyepiece, like the one over here. Okay, so you've got the objective, of course you've got an eyepiece, and then you put a camera here in front, like for example a mobile phone. Okay, so what you're doing is you're using the optics of the microscope, and you're using, of course, also the camera optics to make an image. So it's a little bit like when you're looking with your own eyes through the eyepieces, then you're also using essentially the lens and the cornea of your eye to make an image. So that's called afocal photography, and And the third one is I call dedicated intermediate optics. And this is basically when you have over here in front of a microscope camera, okay, you've got optics in here. And these optics are not the optics of the eyepiece, okay, but these are dedicated optics that adjust the image so that the sensor is able to pick it up. Okay, so these are the three different modalities or methods and how you can do that. Okay, and the question is now the following, and that's I'm basically also addressing questions that I've received over the years. Well, if it is possible already to directly project an image from the objective into a camera, and this one over here does not have any optics, okay, it's just a glass sheet, but there are no lenses here. If this is already possible to do it directly like this, why do some cameras even have optics in front of it? Okay, so-called reduction optics. I mean, why is this even necessary if it also works without it? Well, because those reduction optics that you have over here, they perform several important functions. You know, that you have, which basically you don't have if you are missing the optics. And the functions are listed here. Is first of all, it adjusts the image to the size of the sensor. So it basically increases the field of view. I'm going to explain a little bit later on what the field of view is, but essentially it means that you're able to fit more more picture information on the sensor. Yeah. Then the second function is it ensures focality, and what this means is that when you look at through the eyepieces, okay, you look at the object, then it should be in focus, and it should also be at the same time in focus in the camera. This is called parfocality, yeah, and this is also the job of the intermediate optics. And the third one is the more expensive ones. They are able to correct certain lens errors, so those optics are able to make adjustments and correct certain lens errors and inaccuracies of the objective as well. That's a rather specific case, I would say, but I'm also going to talk about this. Okay, so much to the theory a little bit. When you want to buy a microscope camera, then many people say, well, how many megapixels do I need? What's the resolution that I need? And the more megapixels many people think, the better it is. I'm saying, well, actually, most cameras these days already have enough resolution anyway, more than the microscope can supply. So that is not really the issue. Rather, there's a whole range of other issues that you should take into consideration. For example, the field of view, which I'm going to explain. Do you need a computer? For example, certain USB cameras, you need to connect a computer to them. But maybe you don't have a computer next to your microscope, or you do not want to use a computer. You just want to take pictures and you want the microscope to be independent. The question is does the camera need to be able to do video capability? Not all cameras are able to do that. So for example, they are able to do that, but not of sufficient quality. For example, this is a USB 2 camera, and it's simply too slow. So I'm not getting very good video with it, because simply it's not the camera's fault. It's simply the fact that the USB is too slow. Yeah. Do you need any time to set it up? I mean, in many cases, the camera just sits on top of the microscope, and everything's properly set up. But sometimes, if you want to connect a mobile phone, for example, then you need to align this. And this is basically, you need quite a little bit of setup time, and might even be a little bit unstable and wobbly. So I'm also going to talk about this. Does your camera need manual control, especially if you do some image processing later on, like stitching or stacking? You want to have a full manual control over the camera. Of course, cost is an issue, and then also on how big is it and how does it look like? Does it look nice, or is it very large? Yeah. So all of these aspects you should kind of keep in mind as well when choosing a camera. So I would like to first explain the field of view a little bit, because this is going to be a recurring topic that basically keeps on reappearing over and over again. But just quickly, let me check over here. Okay. Just wanted to double check something, yes. So what I have over here, this is a flea, okay, under the microscope, a picture that I made. And this white circle here, this is essentially the image that you see when you look through the eyepiece, okay? So far, that's clear. And around it, it's black. And I've now drawn certain boxes, and depending on the camera now and the setup and the intermediate optics, it can be that a certain camera only is able to capture a small part in the center of the image. And this would be a narrow field of view. And this camera over here, and optics, is able to capture pretty large field of view, pretty much the maximum what's possible over here. And then if you, for example, hold a mobile phone in front of the camera, and then you get a very large field of view. As a matter of fact, so large that you're even able to see the complete circle. Okay, and you're kind of wasting a little bit of pixels and over here as well, because that's not needed, and you have to zoom in later on. And basically what this means is if your camera has a very small field of view, what you're doing is you're introducing additional magnification. Because if you take the small section from the center and you make it the same size as, for example, the larger one over here, then of course this central part is going to be more magnified and it's going to look larger. Now, some people are going to say, well, isn't this great? Because when you make it larger, then you get additional magnification. And I'm saying, nah, it's not always better. because you sometimes it becomes more fuzzy and more blurry because you're above the resolution limit. That's one problem. And the second problem is especially with moving objects, it's very difficult to catch them sometimes if there certain organisms start to pass through, because you're just looking at a very small part in the center. Question is now the following: does a small field of view also have an advantage? And yes, there can be advantages as well. For example, if your microscope objective is not very good, if it's not a plan objective, then the side over here might be fuzzy, okay? It might be a little bit blurry. You need plan objectives, and if you have plan objectives, then everything is going to be very clear, okay? But if your objectives are not so good, and you only capture a central portion, okay? Then actually you don't see the fuzziness on the outside here. Yeah? So essentially, if you have a camera with a large field of view, you should also get, if possible, it would be nice to also have plan objectives which are in focus all the way to the edge. Okay, so this is basically what field of view means, and that's basically something that we always have to keep a little bit in the back of our head. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through my list here that I made myself, so that I'm not going to forget about anything. Yeah, I'm going to first talk a little bit about connecting mobile phones, okay? Yeah, how do you connect mobile phones? Well, pretty much everyone's these days got a mobile phone, and as a matter of fact, some people even have old mobile phones that they don't need anymore. And like, for example, this one over here. And then, of course, you have to use a mobile phone adapter. Do you have to use one? I highly recommend it. Why? Because a mobile phone, I'm going to use my other one, we're using afocal photography in this case. We're using, over here we have the eyepiece of the microscope. And then over here is, of course, the camera lens in there. And in order for this to work properly, it has to be really properly aligned. And this is extremely difficult to do if you just hold your mobile phone in front of the eyepiece, because the distance has to be correct. It's called the eye relief distance. I'm just going to use this one here as an example. Okay, so the distance has to be correct. The tilt has to be correct. The XY position has to be correct. Okay, and the distance has to be correct, and it's almost impossible or very difficult to essentially line up the mobile phone without an adapter. Now, sometimes you don't have an adapter, you're still able to take pictures. I'll just give you a recommendation. So what you do is, you know what, let me just use this one over here. Okay, look, I detached the head of a microscope here because it's easier like this. What you do is the following: you just wrap your, let me pull this apart a little bit. You just wrap your fingers around it a little bit, yeah, and then you rest the mobile phone over your fingers to give it a little bit of stability. And then with the other finger, you try to release it. Still difficult to do. Okay, so for this reason, I recommend mobile phone adapters, and because the alignment is so difficult, I recommend that you get yourself a separate eyepiece, keep it attached in here, and get everything aligned. The mobile phone stays in here, and if you want to use the mobile phone like this on a microscope, all you do is you exchange the eyepiece with the mobile phone. Maybe I can show this to you. Okay, let's try this. Let me see, I need to switch over a little bit. Let's hope that this works. Yep. Okay, so I've got a little webcam over here, and as I'm switching on the mobile phone, you can already see that I've taken out the eyepiece over here, and I just drop in the mobile phone over here on the other side, and yeah, this is basically what we get. There's nothing in here yet, and you can see that there is this circle that I talked about before. And concerning stability, look at this. Yeah, you see it's very sensitive. Yeah, and if it's not very stable, then you immediately see that it's blurry on this down here. Yeah, so this is kind of the disadvantage of mobile phones. Yeah. But if you connect it maybe to the trinocular head, where can I find it? Okay, where is it here? Yeah, and the top, then of course it's going to be much more stable. Okay, so that is basically some of you might have already experienced with mobile phones to a microscope, but that's simply one of the things that I simply would like to mention here. I need to switch again. Here we go. Okay. So concerning mobile phone adapters, I want to show you different possibilities here. So this one here is yeah, one, and over here there are other types that you have over here. Look at the clamp here. You have to turn a screw, and the eyepiece is clamped. And this one over here, you have to also clamp it in by twisting a screw here. And those mobile phone adapters, you have to be a little bit careful that the diameter of the adapter here actually fits snugly into the eyepiece, because some eyepieces are not quite as thick, and then you need to wrap some paper around it, or you need to get an adapter that fits the eyepiece. Okay, this mobile phone adapter, by the way, I made reviews of those in my other channel. This mobile phone adapter allows you to slide in the mobile phone and out again, but the same issue here. It is a stability question. If it is not properly aligned, then you might have a problem. Okay, so this is a big disadvantage of mobile phones. Big advantage of mobile phones, of course, is it allows you to do video, because the mobile phone does the storing of the film, so you don't have to transfer anything over USB. But it is possible to use also the mobile phone like a webcam, so that you actually connect it over Wi-Fi or over a USB cable to the computer, and then you can see on the mobile the image that you picked up with the mobile phone on the computer screen. You need to install an app and a program on the computer, and then you can actually use your mobile phone also for like a webcam. Okay, which is also quite convenient because you have those adapters, and of course you can also try to connect webcams directly to the eyepiece, but that's yeah, you don't have an adapter for this. So this is basically the yeah, I would say if you have a mobile phone already, the cheapest solution. And I just want to show you this other microscope over here. Hoppala, that I just dropped something. Yeah, it's a little bit small here. Okay, you see some microscopes, they don't have a trinocular head, and these are introductory microscopes here, so you can easily connect a mobile phone here yeah, instead of this eyepiece. Yeah, so this is not a problem. I need to put it away. Okay, so that's clear. So let's move on a little bit. There is now another thing that I would like to show you, also afocal photography, which you might not know, and it's an interesting solution as well. And there was only one company that actually manufactures this here. Look at this contraption here. You have a compact camera. Over in here, I've clamped in an eyepiece. Okay, and yeah, basically it's afocal photography as well. Okay, this goes into the trinocular tube, or there were yeah, the eyepiece is, and then you can also take pictures. Very similar to a mobile phone. It doesn't quite look as compact and as nice. What is the advantage and the disadvantage here? Well, the advantage is that because you have an optical zoom, you're able to zoom in so that you are able to see the image here again. Yeah, like this. You're able to zoom in optically so that you don't have the circle here. Okay, I also want to show this to you. Okay, need to switch it on first. Okay, does this work? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'm going to quickly show this to you as well. Just a second. Ah, yeah. See, you can already see it here. Yeah, that you see a circle. And you know what? I'm going to do it like this. I click the plus. Plus is optical zoom. Okay, and you see that you're able to zoom in. And yeah, disadvantage of this system, again, very, very sensitive to alignment. Yeah. Everything has to be completely centered properly. Here I made it in such a way that it actually touches the front part of the camera. Some cameras have objectives that actually are able to retract and extend, and so you have to be careful that they don't bump into the objective. Yeah, but in this case it works. Again, you can make videos like this, yeah. Disadvantage here is that if you make a video, some of those compact cameras do not allow you to fix or to adjust the focus. So manual focus is not possible. So that if you change the focus of the microscope, sometimes it gets confused and it tries to refocus. Okay, so this can be a little bit annoying, because the camera thinks everything is out of focus, and then it tries to adjust the focus on its own. So this is a little bit a disadvantage with some of those cameras. Mobile phones allow you, at least the Android system that I have, and I'm also sure that the iPhone does it as well. You can actually lock the focus so that yeah, once it's focused, it does not change anymore, even if you change the focus of of the microscope. Yeah, but this is an interesting solution as well. Yeah, there are not so many companies that actually make this here, but I was actually thinking that maybe it's possible to make this yourself a little bit. It's not so difficult. I know that there are those brackets that are sold because photographers, they mount cameras on these and flashlights and microphones and so on. So maybe it shouldn't be too difficult to make something like this yourself. So maybe that's going to be the contents of another video. Yeah. Again, afocal photography, and I've seen people who've not used a clamp like this, but who actually set up a tripod in front of the microscope. Yeah? So you can also do that. Yeah? So I've been using something like this as well, and it works reasonably well. Okay, so that's also a possibility, especially because it's not so expensive, because this adapter did not cost so much, and many people already have compact cameras at home. Yeah, so yeah, it's indeed a solution. But again, very sensitive to set up, and as soon as it's a little bit off, yeah, then it starts to become fuzzy and not evenly illuminated anymore. Okay, so yeah, I'll put this aside as well. Okay, so and I'm going to move on now with a few examples, and I'm getting my list again here. Yeah, so mobile phone, compact camera. Yeah, I want to now talk a little bit about the USB camera and the reduction optics here, and how it's connected. And I need to, in order to do this, I need to detach a photo tube from my other microscope here. Okay, so this here is the photo tube of another microscope, and I'm going to talk about this first and how this actually relates now to the camera that I have over here. Okay, I cannot move it further because it's connected over USB, and I do not want to detach it right now. So this here is the photo tube, and there are now several possibilities here. There are is a reduction optics in here. Okay, and what you do is you simply plug in, obviously, this into the camera into the photo tube, and that's it. That's one way of doing that. To adjust the focus and to ensure parfocality, to make sure that the camera is in focus when the eyepiece is in focus, what you can do is you can extend the length of this tube, and that's why there is a long threading over here that allows you to adjust the distance or the length from the microscope, and then there you have this ring here to fix it again. Okay, so for example, this slightly older model does not have this possibility here. Okay, so you see this has only a fixed length, and that's it. Yeah. But other microscopes allow you to do that. And then you of course insert this, and then you can take your pictures. And look, what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to detach the optics. Okay, and you're able to see now the sensor in here, and you see that the sensor is significantly smaller than the diameter here. Okay. So, and that's why you need optics like this, because they will take a lot of image information, and they will basically bundle it together and make sure that it fits on the sensor to increase the field of view. So, but there's something that not many people know, because some of those photo tubes have a top that can be removed. Okay, and now this is a so-called a C-mount, and now this C-mount. And this here is also a C-mount, and what you can do is you can directly, without the intermediate optics, okay, connect the photo tube, okay, to the microscope. The whole thing becomes shorter, of course. And now what you have is you have now a direct projection. Because there are no optics in between here, the image from the objective lens is directly projected on the sensor. Okay. So why not? What's the difference? Okay, so why then even bother to have these optics here? And the reason is because there are no optics in here, what you will get is you will get a yet smaller field of view. Okay, so the advantage is that the system is more compact. You do not have any intermediate optics that might degrade the image quality, because every time when you have lenses, you have got certain aberrations. But the disadvantage of direct projection in this case is, especially if the sensor is relatively small, the disadvantage is that the field of view is very small as well. Okay, so what you'll get is you'll get a lot of additional magnification. Yeah. So this is of course a disadvantage here. Okay, I don't know if we can. Yeah, I'll try to detach this again here, and we can try to have a look at this. Okay, so what I will do is I will connect the reduction optics again. I have to connect this part again to the microscope, which you're not able to see right now. I'm reaching over. It's the other way around. Okay, and I have to also connect, of course, this top part. Okay, and now let's insert the slide. Just a second. Aye. So, and I hope, yeah, and I'm switching over to the camera right now. So it might take a second or so to turn on. At least I hope that it does do that without any problems, because sometimes the camera switches off. Ah, here we go. Okay. Does it do that or does it not do that? Yeah, sometimes it switches off. This is a little bit, I'll try it again. Otherwise, I mean, you get the idea. Yeah. See, that's a problem a little bit with the camera connection, that it starts to disconnect sometime. Yeah, but you know what? I'll just leave it at that, and I'll put it back because I hope you got the idea. Okay. This is a problem with the camera. So many USB devices connected that it is a little bit difficult for the computer to handle all of this, and then sometimes the devices switch off. Okay, so so this was basically the thing here, and I want to show you, of course, also this one you have already seen before, the desk view. Yeah, this one before. This is a USB 3.0 camera for direct projection, because there is no optics in here. I just need to explain this as well, why this is relevant, because when you have microscope eyepieces, what happens is that the objectives, they will project an image approximately 1 centimeter down into the tube. So about there, this is where the image is projected. And this is basically the place where you have to place the sensor if you want to use direct projection. This is the reason why the sensor is so far in front here, so that when you insert it, okay, it is now exactly at the place where the objective makes an image. Okay, now with those microscope cameras over here, okay, let me detach it again. I could get it back, like the one over here. Okay, with those microscope cameras, because the sensor is all the way out here. Okay, you can't see it, you cannot see it. The sensor is all the way over here in the back. Okay, you need those optics to pick up the image where it actually is. Okay, it needs to adjust it, and then it needs to project it properly. Okay, on the sensor. Yeah. By the way, same thing over here on the folded tube. Yeah. The image is created approximately 1 centimeter down here. You have to insert it. Okay, and then it picks up the image here and directs it onto the sensor. And if you don't have intermediate optics, then you somehow need to get the sensor into this place here, and therefore the sensor is so far in front so that you can insert it directly. Okay, so this camera over here has a similar problem in the sense that you do have a very narrow field of view. Okay, so if you want to get a wider field of view, then essentially the sensor should actually go all the way to the edge, all the way to the side. Yeah. So I have a question here. So I'll just I've ordered a cheap USB camera like the one you got there. My plan is to put it into one of my eyepieces on my BMS. Do I need any other tube-like thing for the focal length? So generally, if you have the whole point is, if you have a camera like this here that goes into the eyepiece, or if you have a camera with reduction optics like this here, which goes into the eyepiece, then you can go and put it directly into the eyepieces. You don't need anything else. Okay, that's the whole point of those cameras, because whether you put it into an eyepiece or on a folded tube doesn't matter. I just show you again my tiny, just a second, other microscope over here, which is this introductory microscope, yeah, which does not have a trinocular head. And then of course you can directly exchange the eyepiece and put the camera in. Now of course a very large camera, like the one that I have over here, yeah, might be too heavy. yeah, but it still should work. And this is the reason why those heavy cameras, you see over here, yeah, you can also attach a tripod, yeah, for additional support. Actually, it's not that heavy. It should work out, okay? Or otherwise, if there's the risk of the microscope tipping over, all you do is you rotate this around here, okay? And then the center of gravity is more in the center, yeah? But these eyepiece cameras, you should be able to connect directly and put directly into a microscope, yeah? I have a Canon camera attached to the trinocular photo tube, but the problem is I'm getting a lot of chromatic aberration with purple fringing. Yep, I can talk about that. There is no chromatic aberration looking through the eyepieces. Yep. Okay. Okay, I'll talk about this here as well when I talk about the next system here, chromatic aberration. So I will talk about this here because this is an issue as well. Let's have a look at a Canon camera, like the one that I have over here on top, which I have to get down here up carefully. And I'm going to show this to you as well. I'm going to now show you, it's also Canon's Canon Eos 600D. It's a slightly older model. I kind of like it because it has this flip out screen. So it's easy to see yeah, what the camera sees. Yeah, you don't have to go up and look down on the microscope screen, but you can flip it out. So, and I'm going to show you now a couple of issues here and how this can be connected, how DSLRs yeah, can be connected. I'm going to step you through all of the possible options that I know of. Let me put the other one back again. Okay. And with all of the advantages and disadvantages, and I'll also talk about the reason why there is chromatic aberration. Okay. By the way, you can remove it by doing some picture editing. Connecting a DSLR or also a mirrorless camera these days to a microscope can be a science on its own. Okay, so I want to basically start over here. What you have over here is a yeah, Canon specific mount, and what you need in most cases is a so-called a T2 adapter ring. So this T2 adapter ring is possible for the Canon, they have it for Nikon, they also have it now for the Canon and Nikon mirrorless cameras. For other cameras you have to kind of check whether they're available or not, yeah, these are so-called T2 adapter rings, and they basically are used also in astronomy, and they're very common, okay? So they are camera specific, and they basically attach here, if I find the correct orientation. Here we go. Where is? Why does it not hold? Okay, so over here you see a threading, so I'm going to detach this again, and there are some adapters that you can buy on Amazon that simply look like this. This is a tube, nothing, no optics, no nothing, okay? And, okay, this here basically can now go into the photo tube. I'm gonna get the photo tube out again, okay? So to show you, okay? Okay, I need to unscrew it. Long threading to adjust the length of the photo tube. But where is it? Here we go. Finally, okay? So this here is the photo tube, and it goes in here, boom, like this, and then here is the camera. Where is this? Okay, yeah. If it's that easy, what's the problem? Well, massive problem, okay? This is not an ideal solution, okay? The reason is remember what I told you? Remember what I told you that about 1 centimeter down here, this is where the image is created, okay? Where is the sensor of the camera? This is where the sensor should be. No, the sensor is way inside the camera over here. So this basically means that when I look through the eyepieces and it's in focus, it's totally out of focus on the camera, and I have to refocus the microscope. So what's the problem, you say? Well, the problem is that you risk crashing the objective into the slide. That is one problem. And the second problem with this system is that you cannot fully illuminate the corners of the image, and it's still yeah, you see dark edges, okay, because of the corners here. Now you're gonna say, well, what's the big problem? Let's kind of move the camera down a little bit closer, and let's simply remove this top part. Yeah, but it doesn't fit, because this is a C2 mount, a C mount, and the C mount does not fit into the eyepiece. Here, yeah. So this is eyepiece diameter, yeah. So this is a little bit of a problem, okay. So those very cheap adapters without optics, yeah, are cheap. That's the advantage, but try it out. Okay, but it has, I think, limited usability. So there are now a few more questions that I would like to read here. Okay. Oh yeah, I tried to 3D. Have you tried a 3D print? Yes, I have tried 3D printing. I made videos on this, and I will show you a 3D print later. Okay. Have you tried 3D print adapters? If so, can we find the CAD file? If you want, I can make a STL file available for the Swift stellar microscope if you want to. In my other channel, I made a video on this, on 3D printing it, but I think you might have to. I use Tinkercad, which is a free, pretty easy to use online CAD software. It's Tinkercad, it's called. It's free, and you can basically design all of the parts in a web browser. And I like it because it's so easy to use. And I've designed it with that. Is there a difference in connecting a Canon DSLR to a Nikon DSLR? Does the sensor size matter? Do you have Amazon product link for Nikon adapter sensor cropped? Okay, so I'll talk about this next. Okay, the difference between the Canon and Nikon adapters is this T2 ring. Okay, so you need to get a Nikon specific T2 ring. So, but as I mentioned, forget about this adapter here. Yeah, because it has this disadvantage of not being the correct distance. There is now another adapter that I have over here. And this one here I got over, they sell it on Amazon as well. I think Amscope has one. I got this specific one from AliExpress, directly imported from China, which was significantly cheaper. And it works. Yep, maybe not perfect. It has this chromatic aberration issue that I want to talk about here, but again, something that you know, this ring here is a T2 ring. So if you want to get this adapter, you have to also get the appropriate T2 adapter ring. And if you have a Nikon camera, you get a Nikon one. If you have a Canon or Nikon, let's say mirrorless camera, then you have to get the mirrorless T2 adapter ring. Okay, because the mirrorless cameras, they have the sensor much more further in front, and therefore this adapter ring is going to be thicker. So don't be surprised, for mirrorless cameras it's pretty thick here. Okay, so basically what this does is of course it goes in here. Okay, where can I find this again? Okay, what? I have to find the correct place. Here we go. Up, now it locked. Okay, and this of course goes into the trinocular head. I mean, what I'm gonna flip this over so that you see it better. Okay, it goes in here. Okay, you can rotate the camera if you want to get appropriate composition and so on. But again, because the image is created approximately 1 centimeter down into the tube, this is where the adapter picks it up. And don't forget one thing, this adapter here has to now spread apart the light rays because the sensor is larger than the diameter over here. Okay, so this adapter is pretty important in that sense. And now we have an issue. Okay, and this issue is the following. Is that these are general purpose adapters, relatively cheaply made. They're okay, but I mean, but the problem with that is that these adapters, they introduce as well lens errors like chromatic aberration. This is where you get this purple and yellow fringing. These are not perfect. Okay, so this is a general problem, and yeah, I have tried this adapter here. It works reasonably well with compound microscopes, but I tried this also with a stereo microscope, and I got really bad results. I don't know why, but yeah, it has to maybe do something with the angle of the light rays or so, but it was really fuzzy, interestingly, but the results were quite, it depends what you want, but it were okay, passable with the compound microscope. If you're now really into photography and artistic photography, and you really want to have high quality, then what you have to do is you have to get yourself a good objective, and you have to try to directly project the image from the objective. You have to make a direct projection into the sensor, so the distances have to be correct. Okay, and then you only have the lens errors of the objective. And because generally every optical system that you have in the light path, will degrade the image quality to a certain extent. There are internal reflections, there are aberrations, and so on. Yeah, so this is always a disadvantage. Maybe there are a few more questions. Okay, usually you have files for Nikon. Okay. Okay, so that is simply a thing here. So I would like to show you a traditional system that is not manufactured anymore, but which I've used for a very long time. And this is the Olympus Adapter system. And it's not made anymore. Maybe they sell it secondhand. But this one has an interesting optical photo projection eyepiece that I want to talk about, simply to show you that this whole issue with chromatic aberration is indeed an issue. So I'm going to detach this T2 adapter ring, and of course you now know that this of course has to go on top here. Okay, and then it's connected of course again to the camera, and then it's on top of the microscope. Now let's take it apart and have a look here. Okay, look what we have inside here. This is a so-called a photo projection ocular or photo projection eyepiece. They call it eyepiece, but it's not really for looking through, but it's there actually to take the image from the objective and to project it on the sensor of the camera. And because this one is from Olympus, and because in Olympus microscopes, the traditional Olympus system, it's not made anymore, okay? And because the objectives, of course, had lens errors, it's a so-called a compensating eyepiece or a compensating ocular. And this means that this ocular corrected the aberrations that the objectives made. So with that result, with that one, I got a pretty good results, because the optics here were specifically calculated and designed to match the objectives. So they kind of cooperated and worked together. Right, this is indeed something that you only get if you stay with one company, and you cannot get that if you take a generic adapter like this. Okay, so this is a little bit a drawback. Now, though there were different oculars available for different camera sizes and sensor sizes, and this one over here is actually designed for full format, for the film size, because this was manufactured at the time when we still used analog film. And then when the cameras came out with a smaller sensor, there were also those oculars for APS sensor for the smaller sensors, and they were immediately sold out. You can, to astronomical prices. I remember €600, $600 to $700 just for this thing here, for the smaller sensor, because people immediately, when the digital cameras came out, they immediately bought those, because then they got the maximum field of view, and the prices exploded here. Okay. I use Photoshop to counter the aberrations. Yes, that's also something that I have done. And there are certain techniques in Photoshop how you can remove the purple and yellow fringing. So that's possible. I think there are even filters that you can use. Because this chromatic aberration is not something specific to microscopes, but also to other optical systems. So this is essentially just should illustrate to you that companies try to deal with this issue here. So I'll put this back here. I just want to show you another one over here. It looks exactly the same. But it was a headache, honestly, because connecting it. Because soon you think it looks the same, just the color is different, but there is a difference here. Look, here, this is an Olympus mount. Okay, there is no T2 adapter possibility here. So how do I get an Olympus mount on my Canon camera? And luckily, I found an adapter ring that converts Olympus to Canon. Okay, so that's basically what's the solution here. Just wanted to show you that it's a science. So, but basically those have given very good results. So, but again, not available. So what we're stuck with, essentially, we're stuck with for if you want to connect a DSLR camera, we're stuck with those adapters here, and they can be bought over Amazon, and I got this over AliExpress, directly imported from China. It took ages to come, but yeah, it was cheaper. Yeah? And yeah, it works. Yeah. So if you already have a DSLR, I would say that this is probably the first thing that I would try. So I just want to show you now something else. Because somebody already suggested, what about 3D printing something? Okay, just a second. There's some before I go on, some more questions. I use Photoshop to counter the aberration. There was a question, what is chromatic aberration? Okay, it's like this, that optics lenses essentially are not perfect. It has to do with the physics. And if you take a simple lens, just a convex lens, and if you try to make a picture with that lens, you can do that, but the problem is that the image quality is going to be fuzzy. They're going to be at the corners between light and dark, they're going to be purple and yellow fringes. It's not going to be quite as clear, and the colors are not quite perfect. And the reason is because even though you use white light, different light rays are refracted differently by the optics. And that's the reason why objectives, they can up to 10 lens elements to correct all of those lens errors, because to make sure that the image is sharp. And this is chromatic aberration. And those adapters over here, they also try to correct this a little bit, but not perfectly. So this means that even if you get a perfect image from the objective, the optics here, they kind of mess up the image quality a little bit. Yeah. And that's the problem, okay? So this whole issue with aberration, there's not only chromatic aberration, there's spherical aberration, and there's coma, and that there is, and so on, yeah? So there are a whole range of lens errors that have to be corrected, and better objectives correct more of these lens errors, and that's why they have, I don't know, 10, 15 lens elements in there that all compensate and correct everything. Yeah, that's why they're so expensive, some of them. Okay, so I just want to show you now something quite interesting. I also made a separate video on this. Okay, it's about this direct projection, because as I told you already over here, where is this? Here, this one over here. This one is uses for the DSLR camera direct projection, but yeah, you remember the whole thing with the focus. So wouldn't it be kind of nice to kind of move the camera close enough to the microscope and design your own adapter so that it's directly projected into the camera? And I have done that. Okay, I'm going to show this to you. And I tell you, I do not understand why the company doesn't provide something like this. This is a 3D print that I made. Okay, it's just a tube. And over here, this here is made of metal, a T2 adapter ring again, because I want to connect it to the camera. And 3D printing all of these things here, yeah, it wouldn't have been strong enough, and would have been too complicated. I'm not a good designer, so I'm just able to design a tube, okay? And I 3D printed this, and basically I put this then on top of the microscope. So it goes in here. And this goes on top of the microscope. I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to put this, yeah, how this actually, I need a, where are my little tools? In a second. And I'm going to now show you, and maybe you can, if your microscope allows this, I'm not saying that you should 3D print it, because many people don't have a 3D printer, but maybe there are different alternative solutions using strong cardboard, or maybe some people are able to CNC something, okay? So I'm going to show you very briefly again. I'm switching over to the webcam view, okay? And this is this microscope, the Swift Stellar 1, okay? Just a standard microscope. Over here there is this tube here on top, okay? And yeah, I was able to remove this tube, but there's something interesting here. You're also able to remove this part over here. Okay, look, I'm going to now take the tool over here, and I'm going to unscrew it a little bit. I'm going to remove this part here, okay? So it looks like, okay? And I 3D printed this part. Okay, and I can now insert it directly here on top, and I can tighten the little screw again so that the camera doesn't fall off. Okay, so what I have now is by lowering it, the objective is now going to directly project into the sensor the image. And the reason why I've got an additional, maybe you can see an additional ring in here is because initially when I made it 3D, it was too short. It was a little bit out of focus, so I extended it a little bit. So that's the only reason, but it's only a tube. Yeah? And let's have a look at this. This is now the 200D. Does the camera work? Maybe I have to turn it just a second. I have to activate it again. I hope that this works. I have to also switch on the microscope, of course. How is that? Maybe I don't see anything because the microscope is turned off. Yeah. Okay. So this is basically the view that I get directly into the DSLR camera. And you can see that the flea, this is 10 times objective, is pretty much visible in completeness. Yeah? So I'm getting a very wide field of view. Okay, when I use, for example, this camera over here, the small one, then I'm only able to get a very small part of the flea. Imaged. Even the other camera with the reduction optics only is able to get a part of the flea. So this direct projection over here is actually, I think, a pretty decent system and decent solution. Okay, this is another 4 times. 10 times, 40 times. I have to go up a little bit with the brightness a little bit. I can focus. Yeah, it's another 40 times objective. Here, the head of the dog flea, permanent slide. Yeah. And I think it works pretty okay. The cool thing with DSLR cameras is of course not only good image quality, but you can, as you can see right now, over USB connected to the computer, you can do videos. Yeah. Disadvantage, kind of expensive. Second disadvantage, and that's what I really don't get, is the company does not make this. I mean, the microscope is really ideal for that. All you have to do is you gotta add a tube, a metal tube, and that's it. So I wrote them an email actually and said, yeah, please have a look at this with a link to my video where I actually showed them how I 3D printed this. But that is indeed a possibility. So if you want to connect a DSLR then or a mirrorless camera, then that's certainly a thing to experiment with. Yeah, but otherwise I would say that in most cases those USB cameras, the USB 2 cameras like I have over here, like I showed you already, those here, they'll be fine in most cases. But when I connect those, and then you're going to see, then essentially they, because of the relatively small sensor size and so on, and especially also because of the slow USB 2 connection, sometimes it's you don't get very good video all the time. Yeah? So for example, I tried to connect this over USB, and I had only a frame rate of 10 pictures per second, which was too slow to properly capture fast moving organisms. And with a camera like this, with a DSLR, I can get 30 pictures, like completely smooth videos. So that means if you want to get a camera like this, and if you want to make videos, then at least get one with a USB 3.0. There are now other cameras as well that I have not tried yet. But it's worth having a look. They look like this, but they have, you can put an SD card into them. Okay, so this means that you do not have to go over USB to record it, but you can actually record it directly in the camera. So this solves many of the problems, and some of them also have an HDMI connection, so that you can directly connect this also to a monitor without the need of a computer. So that's also quite an advantage. So I see a few more comments here already. How do you calculate 6 distance from the lens to the scope in the sensor? How do you suppose the light have to be specific angle, distance? So essentially, I'll be very honest with you. What you can do is the following. So the question is now how in other words, let me switch over. How large should this tube be? Okay, this tube over here, how long should it be to the sensor? Okay, I tell you what I have done. I just basically estimated it. Okay, I just basically estimated it, and I simply 3D printed it, and then it was a little bit out of focus. Okay, but that was okay. Yeah, if it is too far away, then it's really completely out of focus. But this was just a little bit out of focus, so I added another little distance ring of 5 millimeters to adjust it a little bit. So there is no real calculation done. However, you can measure it out, and what you can do as well is, just a second, you know over here that the image is created 1 centimeter down into the tube. That's also standardized, and then you somehow can measure out or there are some camera specifications that you can find online. Basically that this is the place where the sensor then has to be. Yeah, and then you have to measure it out, and then you subtract the distance from the front part of the camera to the sensor. But I even have not been measuring. I just estimated this. Really, I roughly just held the ruler there and said I'm just going to try it out as a proof of concept, and then later on I adjusted it a little bit. Yeah? So this is a little bit the thing. Yeah, I observed a live brown recluse spider under my ARM scope today. It was pretty cool. Yes, for observing spiders and larger organisms, you might also try epiluminations. It means that you try to get light from the top as well. So this basically, I just wonder, if I've said everything that I wanted to say. Okay, I've got over here Olympus Adapter L, no intermediate optics with an adapted direct projection. Yeah. So I just also want to mention the following, something that you might want to try, especially if you like tinkering around a little bit, is you might want to, let's put it like this is just a regular webcam. And those webcams, of course, can also be used and in both ways. And if you like to 3D print things around, or if you want to use cardboard, maybe even to kind of create an adapter, it's also possible. I just show you webcam. Here is the webcam. I hope that you're able to see this. And look, if you hold the webcam, of course, it's afocal photography in front of you have to get the distance correct, okay? And then you're also able to see this, yeah? Now let's go down a little bit with the magnification, yeah? So that is essentially then one possibility. Maybe you can construct some kind of an adapter yourself, so where you can switch the camera again, yeah, an adapter yourself. People have been doing that, yeah, some tube that kind of goes over the eyepiece. Or what you do is you buy yourself a separate eyepiece, and you kind of try to wrap some cardboard around it. Okay, a couple of layers cardboard here. With a little bit of hot glue, and then you can essentially have your own dedicated camera all set up, and then if you want to use it, you just basically plug it in using the separate eyepiece that you have. Or second possibility, you try to take it apart, detach the lens, and then somehow try to attach it as close as possible to the tube, so that you're able to get a direct projection into the webcam. So that's also possible. I've not, this was actually one of the things that I tried about 20 years ago when webcams came up, and I only had my analog camera. What I've done is I've got myself a so-called surveillance camera module. I've taken it apart. It was an analog video television video camera. So no computers. I'm talking here about the television video here. And I connected this directly to my VHS tape recorder and recorded videos directly on the VHS tape. And then later on, when the webcams came out, I took apart a webcam. Remember, 640 by 480, very low resolution. I took the webcam apart, and I also made myself a little webcam adapter here. And it was direct projection, but it was, of course, out of focus because it was too far out. So I always had to refocus, but it was fine because I only used the computer screen. Yeah, and if it's not too far away, it's going to be fine. Yeah, so that is very hard with a telephone. Well, don't fully understand this question, I have to admit. Maybe you can be a little bit more specific. Yeah, okay. So so this is basically some suggestions that I have here. My first advice is you Yeah, I tried it with an endoscope cam, very small picture. Endoscope cameras, sometimes what they have in front is they have some also a lens, because you want to get a very wide angle, right? Endoscope, it goes into the digestive system. You have to get a very wide angle, and if you try afocal photography with that, of course, you also get a very wide angle in a very small image, small picture. So that basically means that. What am I trying to say here is megapixels are not everything. There's so many other things here to take into consideration. And unfortunately, there is no perfect system around if you do not have a camera yet. But you do have a mobile phone, then the first thing that I definitely recommend is, simply because it's so cheap, is to get a mobile phone adapter. Okay. It really adds a lot of value in the sense that it's more easy to make pictures. Disadvantage, of course, it's a little bit wobbly and very difficult to set up. Not very difficult. It takes time to set up and patience. Yeah. If you have a compact camera, then you might try a solution like this one over here. Yeah. Which is kind of difficult to get, but maybe there are some clamps where you can assemble something this yourself. Or you connect a tripod. I would say in most cases, most people will actually use a microscope camera like this here, because it's convenient and easy to use. Okay, with a disadvantage that limited video ability because of the USB connection here. Or you try to get those cameras with a USB 3, but unfortunately they're significantly more expensive. Yeah? Or if you have a DSLR camera, then I would definitely get one of those adapters first and try those. But only if you have a trinocular microscope, because if you put it in front of an eyepiece, the microscope might tip over because of the weight. Or you try a self-help system by 3D printing adapters. Yeah? If all of this stuff is really too annoying, trying to find the best solution. But if you have a little bit of money, if you go to the big 4 microscope manufacturers, Olympus, Nikon, Zeiss, and Leica, the big ones. Now, there are other ones as well these days that have very good Euromex, for example, has very good microscopes and so on. What they sometimes do is they provide you with a complete solution, adapter solution as well. So you don't have to try to find the pieces that work, but essentially you go to them and then they provide you with a complete solution that should actually work out of the box. Yeah? So there are solutions available, but today what I've been doing is I've been trying to simply giving you an overview of I would say maybe the more affordable solutions that there are. Yeah. So I need to also want to make a short organizational announcement. Let me check first how many people are watching this here right now. There are 11 people watching. Okay. I want to continue obviously doing my live streams every week. However, I'm going to switch channels. Okay. I've now for some time used this channel now to make live streams. However, I'm going to switch channels because I have too many microscopy channels that I have to maintain at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I will continue my live streams on the Microbehunter microscopy channel, which is a little bit larger. It has many more videos, and I will start doing the live streams there. I will start to retire this channel. At least that's my intention for right now, because there are simply too many channels otherwise that I have to maintain. Yeah? So I'm going to move some of the videos over to my other channel as well. And if you basically, most of you probably already know my other channels anyway already, but I'm simply going to keep on live streaming on my other channel. There are also more subscribers there that can be notified, and it makes life easier for me because I don't have to spread myself around over 3 or 4 different channels. Yeah, Brunel was also very helpful with connectors. Yes, Brunel in the United Kingdom, in the UK, I've also ordered things from them already. They are also quite helpful. Yeah, I sent a picture of a worm I couldn't identify under an Amscope on your Instagram. I was wondering if you could identify the worm. Okay, I'll admit that I did not check my Instagram channel for some time right now. Generally, about identification. biodiversity is so large. I recommend that you get yourself some identification books, okay? Because I'm not a worm expert. I can just tell you if it's an annelid or a nematode worm, but I cannot go more specific than that. I'm going to check the Instagram post. But I would suggest that for anything more specific, you have to consult specific literature, because it's becoming very specific and very detailed very quickly, because the biodiversity is simply very large. Yeah? So I think I'm going to leave it at that again. I plan to do in the upcoming live streams to do some instructions on how to use software. So to do some basic video, not only video, but also picture editing, basically stitching and stacking and so on. Okay. And because also contrast improvement, because sometimes very simple improvements or some easy improvements to pictures can greatly enhance the image quality. Okay, so I hope that this proved to be useful. I know that many of you probably don't have all of the equipment that I talked about here, but I simply just wanted to give you an overview of what I've got here, simply to help you kind of classify a little bit what ways there are to get a picture from a microscope into the camera. Okay, if you have any further questions, please post them into the comments section. But I wanted to again reiterate that I'm going to now continue these live streams on my other channel. Okay, and I'll post again announcements so that you won't miss anything. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I wish you all the best. As always, I hope it proved to be useful, this video again. Happy microbe hunting as always, and bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you around next time.